welcome to Victoria Rumble Room. Hey, it's our first show of 2025. I'm Robin Adair. With me, as always, my co-host with the most, the Croatian sensation, John Jurisic. And John, so great to see you again. A new year of exciting shows. And what's on your mind?
Well, I think it's quite obvious to everyone right now they're probably falling out of their seats. I'm wearing a dark shirt, Robin. I am the dark shirt for 2025.
The Dark Lord of Television. That's it.
I'll tell you something. Hey, guess what? We've got some exciting news. We have our first sponsor, and we're going to do our first sponsor promotion. And here we go. Many thanks to West Shore Web Hosting for their hosting services in creating and helping create our new website, victoriarumbleroom.com. You can see how to connect with Kelly Darwin and West Shore Web Hosting right below. I've listed their site. Thank you for being our first sponsor. And if the many hundreds of people who also want to be our sponsor want to connect with us, you can now do that at the email below at info@victoriarumbleroom.com. What do you think of that, Robin?
Well, I think it's great because it's always been our hope to have some sponsorship, but not sponsorship in the traditional sense that we need a lot of money. We're looking for services and things that can help promote the show. This is going to give us a website you can send into. And John, we're going to get into more detail, I guess, in a few minutes' time about what's in the website and what exactly you can do to use the website. But this is sort of an exchange of services now in order to get this website going.
Exactly.
And we really appreciate having this on board. And we're going to try to be creative in the future about other ways that we can work with friends in industry and friends in business about ways we can help promote them while at the same time bringing in things that can enhance our show.
Yes, so besides going blue and dark, dark Croatian sensation, we're also consolidating our brand under Victoria Rumble Room and pulling it away from some of my brands. All those viral videos we created on TikTok under John J59 should be under Victoria Rumble Room.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, John, we're excited about that, but are we excited about everything that's coming up this year in 2025? What's your read on the year upcoming?
Well, it's going to be terribly unsettling. Okay, there's going to be crazy U.S. politics. There's clearly going to be Canadian politics and elections on both the provincial and federal side. But I'll tell you something that's pissing me off these days. Okay, I saw some article recently that stated that Canadians have no identity. Okay? And I'm going to tell you something right now. Bullshit. Okay? We are not defined by our donuts, even though we make damn good ones. We're not defined by our hockey teams, although we have the best in the world. We're defined by our spirit. We're the toughest personalities in the world. We're the most resilient, and we're the most humble. And that's not because of stuff. It's because of our land. We got tons of forests, oceans, rivers, large plains. We're defined by the toughness that nature represents. So I'm telling those folks that think we don't have an identity, you can go put that where the sun don't shine.
Well, John, we have an identity because we're very open-minded to the point we're happy to have, an open dialogue in a format like this. It's underlines being Canadian, and we're self-critical. Canadians are self-critical, I think, beyond what most nations would be. But we're also very, very excited about our country, and we're very patriotic, I think, really down to a point where it's a great thing to see people waving flags. It's too bad it all got wrapped in with the truckers' protests.
Yes.
But my argument would be that everybody should be waving the Canadian flag, not just truckers or just protesters. I'm tired of seeing people waving other countries' flags in parades. Let's wave the Canadian flag, and let's say some nice things about Canada because we have a lot to be proud of. There's problems. We got problems.
Who doesn't have problems, Robin? Who doesn't?
We've all got problems, and we've got to clean them up. And some of our problems are we've created them ourselves, and some of them have come to fruition because we have been so nice and so lax with people, small groups in the community who are saying, we want to change society and we want to change Canada in this way and that way. And some of it just doesn't fit the Canadian mode. It doesn't make us feel good. It makes a very small minority feel that they're in control. And it's time for Canadians to stand up for our value system. And I'm looking forward to more of that happening in 2025.
Standing up, baby, standing up.
Yeah, you're standing up. That's good, Johnny. That's good. I love to see that. So
Strong,
I'm in total
tough,
agreement.
Resilient, humble. Don't mess with us.
And besides standing up, I'd like somebody to get up, walk in the snow, and leave the stage. Justin Trudeau. It's amazing to me that we've had to withstand Justin all through the Christmas holidays. He hasn't even been there, but I mean, he's dominating the airwaves because there's so many members of his own party who are saying, get out, leave, go. And John, then we already have the next people who want to be the leader of the Federal Liberal Party and be the next prime minister lining up. We have Jolie. We have, Freeland may come back out of the weeds because I know there's people that want to see her return, and I'm not sure
Robin,
she wants to. I don't know why she'd want to. And then, Johnny, I just have to bring this to your attention. Christy Clark is out there, the former premier, and people say, well, Christy Clark can't be the prime minister. She doesn't speak French, but she's been working on it. Here's an example of her message at Christmas time.
Entamons l'année 2025 en nous soutenant mutuellement et en travaillant ensemble pour un avenir meilleur pour tous les Canadiens. De ma famille à la vôtre, joyeuses fêtes, santé, joie et prospérité pour la nouvelle année.
So there you are, Christy Clark, our beloved former premier, speaking French, John. So, I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, I'll tell you, you can put anyone at the front of that party. They lack ideas, and primarily they lack solutions. I don't honestly at this stage care who is going to give the solutions, but provide us with some. Provide affordable housing for our children in 2025 or young people. Provide manageable health care for our communities in 2025. Stop the crime in our downtowns in 2025. Stop the homeless taking over neighborhoods and rampant crime going on everywhere in 2025. I don't care what color you are. Can we come up with some solutions, please? Christy, Friedland, anybody. If you all want to walk in the snow, I don't care.
Well, they're going to all offer solutions. I think it's wide open for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives to come in. And what they are offering, what they really are offering is change. And people are nervous about Poilievre, and perhaps for good reason. But I mean, we do need change in the country, and we need compassion too. Some of these people that you just mentioned, the people that are homeless, some of them are mentally ill. They have drug addictions. They should be in care. And it should be enforced, and they need to be looked after. And we need to do something about opening up our natural resources. Stop being ashamed of ourselves that we have this bountiful, all these industries, the forest industry,
proud to be
mining
Canadian.
industry,
Proud
all
to
these
be Canadian.
wonderful things that make Canada great. And we've been turning our back on it and saying, oh no, it's terrible that we do those things. We cannot live our lives in a shadow. We have to step forward. And hey, John, somebody I know who feels the same way about all this is Dan McTeague, who I think is standing by. And he's of course, very much involved in Gas Wizard. And he's talked about gas prices probably going up this spring. We'll have more on that. But we decided we better talk to Dan, who's also the president of Canadians for Affordable Energy, but what he sees coming up in 2025 on the energy field, the political field, the field in general. So let's zoom him in. And joining us once again, starting off a new year, 2025, is Dan McTeague. And Dan, great to have you here. Sorry about the circumstances, but so many things to talk about. We have I think, can't describe it as any other thing than a hostile U.S. president right now who's incoming. Donald Trump has been talking about 25% tariffs. He's making all kinds of threats towards Canada, including energy. So do we really have something to be afraid of here?
Well, I think 2025 is going to be a bit of a surprise year for us. And Happy New Year, gentlemen, John and Robin. I think
Thank
the
you.
year is
I
going to be a
sobered
little
up.
bit better than we think. Yeah. We're going to have a change here in this country, thank goodness. And I'm looking forward to that. I've been waiting for 4 years. Actually, been waiting for 7 or 8 years, but no one took my word for it back in 2015, 2016 and said, this isn't a very bright group of people you want running the country. But nevertheless, it is 2025. It isn't 2015, as with a shrug of my shoulder. And these are not sunny ways, although we might have good weather in the country some days. It's awfully cold. I think the president choreographing and telling us what he thought way back at the end of November, a month or so ago at the beginning of December was very helpful in the sense that it finally gave Canada, I think, the jolt that it needed to really focus collaboratively and in our own ways as provinces, as well as the federal government on what needs to be done. And, there is no doubt that Canada has become a sieve for drugs going into the United States. I mean, yes, they have stuff coming north, but we haven't done a very good job. And, province by province, of course, is going to take its own measures. But generally speaking, they're not going to take what my province did at the beginning of December. We Doug Ford here was all, oh, let's retaliate. That's great. Do that. It's like using a pea shooter when going to a fight, or as Sean Connery would have said, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. I think the public and representatives are finally getting serious that we have to do more on our end to really pull up our bootstraps, because we've been sloppy on the immigration front. We've been sloppy on the migration front. We've been sloppy on the economic front. This is a new day, new sheriff in town. He's not stupid. He's done this before, and he's got a good team. But I think Canada can respond very nimbly to this, not because of what it has. Yeah, energy, and we can sit back on our laurels. Not that the federal government can actually do that, or some of our left-wing provinces who hate the oil and gas sector, even though it's our bread and butter. It's the backbone of our economy, like it or not. When you go to a hospital, it doesn't get paid for by goodwill and intention and public servants, all of whom are good. It gets paid by our country drawing in investments from other parts of the world, especially the United States. And I think we can continue doing that, but we're going to have to be more serious. And I think we're heading towards that. So in 3 weeks, will there be more pronouncements? I don't think we've heard the end of it, but I think a lot of it will sort of get Canada back in line with where I think it should be, and that's to make sure that we have a seamless economic relationship with our best trading partner, and also get our military up and do a bunch of other things as well. Not because they say we should do it; they're saying, "Listen, if you don't do it, then we'll protect ourselves." And I don't think Canada wants to be left in that kind of vulnerable position.
So, Dan, great to start off the new year with you. Wow, fantastic. Clearly one of our most popular guests.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful. Cracked
Blushing.
50 grand on TikTok with one of your clips. All kinds of comments we're not going to put on the screen, but love it. Look, if the tariffs are implemented, will we immediately be seeing a spike in costs from energy to food to virtually everything else? Justin Trudeau talks about a recession. How bad could this get for Canada's economy?
The first thing you're seeing is the Canadian dollar. It has weakened substantially. It's been weakening almost since the time in which the Trump administration was given the go-ahead back at the first weeks of November. We've seen a weak Canadian dollar. This time last year, $134, 135 pennies by US dollar. Now we're, north of 142. That's adding to the price of everything. I think if the tariffs are in fact implemented, although I tend to believe that we've probably taken some steps, I think, that might mitigate that. They're serious. We could see $1.60, which would be historical. I can't remember a time, maybe back to my time in 1981, 82, Parliament Hill working for the housing minister when we had 21% interest rates. Let's not go back to that. But, that's the last time I saw the loonie fall under 60 cents, or in this case, over $1.50, $1.60 to buy $1 US. That would add every commodity's price an additional, 5, 7, 10%. So yes, prices would go up, but they would also go up for the United States. And I don't just talk about, electricity that we might sell. We sell a lot of oil to the United States, a lot of natural gas. We import some too as well. But that would mean a 25% tariff unless they get exemptions. And I don't think you can do some of these. I think the message is more partisan, political. Clean up your act at the border. It's not about the tariffs. It's not necessarily about the $100 billion that he referred to, which he thinks is a free ride. I think when someone actually points a picture as to what this actually means, I think he'll maybe back off a little bit. But as long as Canada gets to the point, John, of smartening up and not being, last month An interesting admission by the RCMP and the Canadian Border Services Agency was that, yeah, Canada is exporting a lot of fentanyl into the United States. And there's a reason why there have been several of these busts in your province and in mine, where these are labs, and there seems to be a train going down there providing this very lethal, deadly stuff, killing tens of thousands of Canadians and Americans over the past half decade. So I think Canada can do more. It is doing more, and I think I'm looking a little bit better on what happens on January 21st, 22nd, 23rd. What will be the first 10 steps that he takes, or 15 steps? I assure you, it won't be as damaging as what Biden did on his first day, which is to kill the Keystone XL pipeline that denied Canada probably 10 to 15 billion dollars in revenues per year. And so I think that's, and I shouldn't say per year, it's more like 8 billion per year, but that's a lot of money that could have otherwise gone to Canadians rather than accumulating deficits. And as we know, the deficit is extraordinarily, an extraordinarily debilitating factor that the government has finally had to admit it's out of control when it comes to spending.
We've had a lot of shifts in government policies because some things that they've promised and unveiled with a great deal of fanfare, and I'm talking about renewable resources right now, is things like a battery plant that was shelved in BC just recently. David Eby has then rejected a conservative call for small nuclear development. He's saying, well, I'm the premier, I'll make decisions on where we're going to go with all of that. At the same time, the feds have put a cap on further future gas and oil exports. Now, you have to think this is going to have to shift and change. There's all this talk about whether we are going to import less or more oil and gas to the States, or whether we're going to start sending it to Europe, which is going to be desperate for it, especially in the wake of all this conflict going on in the Middle East and in Russia. So what's your read on that? I mean, are we going to start seeing a shift now, maybe away from this emphasis on renewable resources back to the mothership, which is one of the fueling fires of our economy, which is oil and gas?
I think green energy net zero is in retreat. And it's been a retreat for some time. They just haven't got the note for it yet. One of the things that I think in my province was very vexing to my premier, Doug Ford, and I suspect to David Eby and also to François Legault, was the fact that the United States, even before talking about tariffs, said we are getting rid of the EV mandates, forcing Americans to drive vehicles they don't want and can't afford and are not very reliable. Now, there's some good EVs out there, to be sure, but forcing people means that 85 to 90% of our vehicles, which are built in this province and in this country, wind up in the United States. If there's no EV mandates, then we're building stuff that the Americans aren't going to buy. So we've backed the wrong horse. I've said this in a post that I put on Canadians for AffordableEnergy.ca, Canadians for Affordable Energy, way back when, that I think we've backed the wrong horse, as I mentioned earlier, but also I think we're going to be left holding the bag on billions of dollars of commitments and infrastructure, as well as not just battery plants, because you have your battery plant. There's Lion that has a problem. There's Northvolt that we all know about. We know Ford's walking away. Stellantis is walking away. Everyone says they'll build some of these, but they're sure as hell not going to build 20-30 billion dollars worth of economic activity around an economy that no longer exists, at least for the foreseeable future. As for real renewables, other than hydroelectric, and by the way, your province has a good history on, building dams that are extraordinarily expensive. Site C being an example, starts off $6-7 billion, winds up being 20-30 billion. Or when the governments get involved, as they did, and stick their nose in and take, not to be disrespectful, but we'll use every tool in the toolbox to block the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion, costing the Canadian public $32 billion. Look, I was a member of Parliament for 18 years. My riding was Pickering. In 1965, I don't know if we can see this, that's the commemorative stamp, sorry, I have it upside down, of the ground sod turning in Pickering Township of North America's first commercial nuclear reactors. 1965, Ontario did not have an advantage. We don't have oil, we don't have gas, we don't have the Montney like you do in British Columbia or Alberta. We didn't have the topography like they do in Quebec, where everything can go downhill. And we couldn't flood billions of acres of land to create hydro dams. So what we did, we built nuclear. And what happened? Why did Ontario have that advantage? By building nuclear and having the foresight 50, 60 years ago, we wound up the lowest cost electricity jurisdiction in North America. Jobs poured into this province. If we want to cast that all away, throw away, the cost of the farm for a few beans, good luck with that. We know how that's going to wind up.
Fabulous. It's just so energetic talking to you. I love it. I see the
I'm glad you told me nuclear.
I see the governor of Alaska over on this side is already rubbing his hands about a new pipeline to carry Alaska crude to the lower 49 states through Canada. Trump sounds like he wants to do this too, or support it. Will this be a bargaining chip for Ottawa, perhaps? Would they try to block it?
It's a really good point. Look, we have in my part of the country propane, natural gas, oil, diesel, etc., transported across the United States from Canada into Ontario, and then it makes its way into Quebec and sometimes even the Maritimes. So I think it's a good relationship between the two countries would allow that. And I know BC may have objections given the current political statuses there. So just go around BC, go through Yukon and maybe Northwest Territories, a little smidge of it, and then come down to Alberta. I think you'd be fine. I think it's not just a bargaining chip. I think it may also open up another possibility, and that's to get the Keystone XL pipeline up and running, which Trump was very, very in favor of. If it's still 80% built and they haven't, shipped most of it away or salvaged some of the stuff, then you may only be 2 years away from getting that one open. That's almost a million barrels a day. What would that do, John? And with Alaska, I mean, you have to pay these things one way or another, but I would suspect that that would give energy security to all of North America. And with that energy security, not just oil, but natural gas, we can ensure that countries like Russia, if they get out of line or the OPEC decides that they want to play games as they did in 2014 or as they did 20, 30, 40 years ago, we've got enough to protect our own needs. And I think that's a very smart move. I think that's our trump card, if you will, to use an expression. It is our energy, and Americans realize, and this is really important. I've said this for 10 years. A lot of people didn't pay attention to it. In my previous time doing a lot of media in the United States with Gas Buddy and a few other things, tomorrowsgasprices.com, I reminded everybody that it wasn't just about Canadian oil, U.S. oil. It was about the fact that U.S. refiners had reconfigured much of their refinery complexes, spent billions of dollars to take heavy oil. Now, they can't get it from Venezuela anymore. They're a basket case. They can't get it from OPEC. They're not interested. And they have other customers called China. And they sure as heck can't get it from Mexico, which is running out of oil. They have to get it from Canada. So we have a pretty strong card to play. I realize some of the other provinces, as you go further east, and some regions here in the province of British Columbia don't want to play ball, but it's an important partnership that we have. And I think the Americans readily recognize that when it comes to security, you can't have political security and have policy of political security without economic security and without having enough oil to get you for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Actually, I want to talk about natural gas and oil.
Okay.
We have people that I know quite well that are well educated and they're thoughtful and they're well read, and they claim that these are major pollutants that need to be stopped. Under no circumstances can this continue. We're destroying our planet, and it's just a very black and white situation. And it comes down to, well, I hope you don't have a gas top on your oven, because gas actually causes cancer. And I hope you don't have a gas fireplace, or at least if you do, I hope it has a glass cover, because these things will pollute your home, and you are risking your life and risking your children if you happen to have children in the home. And I can remember a few years ago there was a big drive to get people to move to natural gas. It was seen as a cleaner form of energy, and it would be a sustainable form of energy for a long time because we have so much of it in BC. And then the narratives changed, where we have municipalities in certain areas banning the installation of natural gas heat into new buildings that are being built or new houses. Is this going to shift as well? Do you think maybe if and when we have Pierre Poilievre come in with a conservative government, we will see a shift in policy at the highest levels that'll peter down, and maybe the narrative will change, and maybe the fear factor as well?
Well, I think the one thing that's going to happen is the grifters, the green grifters, who've been out there pushing their message, which it turns out to be medically and scientifically not only erroneous but preposterous. If you think having a natural gas or propane stove is going to lead somehow to cancer, then I can tell you I got a great deal in last year's snow, because it's a con job, and they know it. And to suggest otherwise, yeah, they come out with all these studies from their economic and scientific friends, but none of them are peer reviewed. Give you an example. A month or so ago, Sylvain Charlebois, the food professor, came out with a peer-reviewed study that said, yes, carbon taxes are in fact inflationary and leading to higher food costs. All the usual suspects, the Trevor Tomes, the Andrew Leaches, the Kent Fellows, and all these other folks came up. Of course, they don't tell everybody how much make from the federal government or from the CBC or whoever, but came out, no, this is wrong, until he said, yeah, guys, except I've got it peer reviewed, you don't. So I take all of this stuff with not only a serious amount of skepticism, but I also think that their time is up. They've had 10 years to push their nonsense and to say that, fossil fuels are bad and deriding them. We have to recognize that a cold country like Canada, natural gas isn't just used for, stovetops for people who want to cook better and more efficiently. We also know that the alternative in terms of electricity, unless you're prepared to build 4 or 5 more Site C dams and have electric vehicles charging everywhere, which you don't have the money to do in your province nor in mine, unless you are prepared to burn more coal, burn more wood, then by all means, go get rid of natural gas. But what I want municipal politicians to do, and I've said this to them to their faces, and they don't like it, organizations that go out and tell people we shouldn't have these natural gas facilities, tell people to go out, get a wrench, and I'm not suggesting I would do that, and turn off your natural gas supply and try to live this winter without it. Because if you think you can live without natural gas in a country like ours, go right ahead. Second of all, you want to eat? You go to a grocery store? What do you think Haber-Bosch means? Haber-Bosch was a process made in the First World War by a couple of German scientists with notorious reasons that actually improved using nitrogen, which comes from natural gas, to improve 4, 5, 6-fold our agricultural output globally. When we were younger, Robin, John, we heard about global famines and hunger and the world would not have enough food to go around. Because of natural gas and our ability to liberate its potential, we now have no food poverty, no food shortages. What we do have is in certain countries like Africa, who doesn't have access to propane and natural gas, using cow dung, which is actually creating problems and creating respiratory problems. That's the alternative these folks are really talking about. When they say they don't like it, they don't come up with another alternative, much less the fact that what they're saying is based on scientific bunk.
So do you foresee a big shift, though, if and when the Conservatives win this election this upcoming year, and all the polls seem to indicate it's almost a fait accompli? We'll see what happens. But if Pierre Poilievre comes in, from the very top, do you see a massive shift in the way government handles this whole issue of renewable resources?
I think they know what's kept the coalition in power, the NDP Liberal coalition holding by a thread, and it's this net zero fascination. It's nice to talk about that, but that is an international construct. It is a construct of a handful of well-to-do elite organizations, the WEF, the UN, and a bunch of other organizations. They have lost the narrative. They've lost it in Europe. Look what happened in December when you saw earlier in the month, you saw, parts of England having to go black. There was no power. France couldn't supply them enough energy. Germany's going through the same process. I think Canadians are now waking up to the reality that not only should they not be deprived of the things that are good, plentiful, and abundant and provide us our standard of living, they also believe that we shouldn't be going down this road of demonizing the very thing that makes our economy tick. And you know what? Anybody who travels to Vancouver, to Victoria, your neck of the woods, knows when they come out, they breathe the air, it's fresh. We've cleaned up our air. We've cleaned up our waterways. We can always do more. Your city can put a lot more in terms of sewer construction. That would be great.
Oh, we've done that. We're doing that. We've spent a lot of money on that.
Exactly. But those are the kind of deliverables on environmental issues that people want, not this baloney about, a small inert but important part of the atmospheric makeup of what we breathe is somehow to be demonized because we have a few extra molecules of CO2. It's a life giver. It's not a life taker. And it's those who are making that argument are arguing from a position of quicksand, and I wouldn't want to be making much of a platform on that.
You just gotta love Dan McTeague, and I can tell you we're going to have Dan on a lot more in 2025. One of the things you're going to see more of is fewer guests. We're going to have the same guests who are really good, really colorful, really interesting, coming on the program more frequently. That's going to be one of our new themes on the Rumble Room. Why not rumble with people who are good at it, good at rumbling, love to talk, love to debate, and have an opinion? Those are the people we want to see on this show. So you'll be seeing lots more of those folks in this coming year, and you'll be able to tune in and learn more about them, John, on our shiny new website.
Absolutely. And we're also unleashing ourselves, as you can probably tell. A little bit more ad-libbing, a little bit more fun. We're going to really rock and roll on the Rumble Room. Love Dan McTeague, and he's one of our more popular guests with his comments. especially on sites like TikTok. That's where a huge bunch of people watch the Rumble Room, as well as Facebook, as well as Twitter, as well as YouTube, as well as Instagram, and an audio podcast feature. So it lends itself obviously to the conclusion. Why not have all that stuff live on one place? And that one place is the VictoriaRumbleRoom.com. And here we are at the home page. Here's the navigation area. Home, hosts, contact, editorials. On our home page, we have the latest episode and session. Here is a link to all of the 400 plus interviews Robin and I have done on the Rumble Room. We encourage you to join our mailing list to stay updated with exciting Rumble Room news. And the bottom here is always the very latest Facebook posts. So that'll sort of update you quickly. And then down here we have a link to the Rumble Room Facebook site, YouTube site, Twitter site, and podcast site. And once again, thank you, West Shore Web Hosting, for making all of this happen for the Rumble Room. We have an area in which we identify ourselves. We're the hosts, Robin Adair, Yanni Juricic, and once again, the updated Facebook posts and links to our other platforms. Contact. You can send us a message here if you like through the contact form or email info@victoriarumbleroom.com. Our Facebook site, Twitter site, YouTube site, and podcast site. Actual links to them. And we are hoping to have more with Twitter, Instagram. I think it's Blue Sky. Yeah. Robin does a monthly article for the Vancouver Island Business Examiner. All of those articles are linked here. For example, End of Year Salute. And you can take a read. They're fabulous opinion pieces. And really set the tone and stage for so many of our Rumble Room questions. There you go. Please consider taking a peek in your spare time. And as we go through the year, we're going to list all of our regular speakers, our exciting, interesting, provocative people that we engage with all the time. So, as we enter 2025, dark blue, Yanni Juricic. Love this new format. Love what we're doing.
And John, I'm just loving doing this show with you. Looking forward to another year. And on that happy note, rumble on.